Hello, all my YouTube friends. I am very excited to have this very brief pocket of time to share with you my review of Memoria Press's charter version second grade curriculum. So we are obviously still working through this curriculum. It is the middle of April, and we have been doing this off and on since the summer. So conceptually, we could have already finished, but if you follow my channel, you know that I do a very eclectic approach. So we are doing other things in addition to Memoria Press. And that is kind of the note that I want to begin with, is that we are an eclectic homeschooling family. We don't only use Memoria Press, and we are doing the charter version. So I'm sure that there are things I'm going to say that may be not done in the same way by everyone else, or maybe people would disagree with my opinions on things, which is fine. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Everything that I'm saying is just going to be about how things have worked for us in our big family. I have 6 children. My second grader is my 5th, so I have a lot of older kids doing things. This is my 5th time doing second grade. First time doing Memoria Press second grade as a whole. So the first thing I want to talk about is the curriculum guide. Very sadly, second grade is the last grade for the charter site that there is a curriculum manual, I believe. I could be mistaken, but I couldn't find a third grade. And then when I emailed them, they said they didn't have plans to make one. This is an important point because, as I'm about to show you, there's kind of a substantial difference between the charter version of their curriculum and their traditional version. If you're new to Memoria Press is a classical Christian company, so their original materials on memoriapress.com are going to include those Christian materials, whereas the charter version is intended for public school versions. For example, if you're with a charter school in California, you get a discretionary budget to use for approved secular materials that your teacher has to approve. So so these should have no Christian content is the point. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you the difference between the traditional Memoria Press and the charter version side by side. So these, sorry, my dog just decided to go have a big drink of water in the background. This is like the first page where it tells you what materials are included. So you can see off the bat, this one's got Latin and grammar. This is the traditional I printed out from the sample on their website. So you've got Latin and grammar, reading, math, copywork / memory work, literature and enrichment, phonics and spelling, and then new user add-on things. In the charter version, we've got phonics and spelling, Latin and grammar, reading, copybook and memory, literature and enrichment, and then supplements. And so the supplement is where you're going to have the science and social studies component for the charter version. Whereas when you're talking about the original version of Memoria Press. So there is going to be patterns of nature, which is like the science component. And that is not included in this. I've actually ordered this before because I thought, it's nature. It's not going to be Christian. It is Christian. It is a biblical worldview. It's really a great program too, but it just didn't work for us. And then, so that's one of the main differences, is this has a built-in patterns of nature is like a built-in science program. And then obviously there's math, rod and staff. This is also a Christian worldview. And as you can see, it's very robust. Math is missing from the charter version. And then for Latin, they have Prima Latina. So the good news is Memoria Press created the Introduction to Grammar School Latin, which is a secular Latin, and it's very good if you are looking for Latin for that age. So those are the 3 main differences really is there's a different version of Latin, the math, there is no math for this program, and then the nature studies not included. A lot of these things on the bottom are related to, if you're doing math, you can figure out what you're missing. But the spelling should be exactly the same. I haven't looked at a side-by-side comparison of the spelling to see if there's a difference between the charter and the regular version, but I think that they're the same. The Latin is definitely different. You're going to want to definitely get the charter version if you want secular, or the Prima Latina if you want Christian. Here it really makes a difference because you learn like church Latin, so that's incorporated in their Latin. Hymns and things like that. I'm not an expert in that, so I can't really speak to it. Then you have the reading. It should be lined up. This is the second grade literature, which we will be looking at. And then the copybook cursive, you can see the original version, Memoria Press, is scripture and poems, and the charter and public school version is not. And the New American cursive is just Famous Americans, because I think they don't make that. I think that's a separate company. So those are kind of the differences there. So that is the first page. Then we will look at the lesson plan so you can kind of get a sense. This is kind of like an informational video too. It's not only a review, as you can kind of already get the sense of that. So let's look at a side-by-side. And these are, this first week of lesson plans is available on their website on memoriapress.com or charter.memoriapress.com. So don't feel like, oh, I need to screenshot this or something. You can download this sample on their website. That's where I got it from. So let's look at week 1, Monday, for example. So here you have recitation for week 1. This is in the appendix in the back of the book. And I'm pretty sure, actually, I don't know if the recitation is different from one version to the next, but I can tell you the recitation for the charter version is stuff like, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if that's one for second grade, but like that type of stuff, or like, what are the 4 cardinal directions, or what is your address? What grade are you in? Things like that. Then in the charter version, you have spelling. In the regular version, or the original version, you have the Christian studies. So this is also another topic that's not included in the charter version. And then the spelling is the same thing. Lesson 1, day 1. And then we have Latin and grammar. So that's the same order of things. Here you've got the intro to grammar school Latin. Here you have Prima Latina. And by the way, they do offer streaming lessons in various things. I think Latin's probably one of them, if that's something that you're interested in supplementing. And they've got their own app and everything. It's great. Next, then we have the reading. So this charter version is actually not updated with their new literature guides, because I purchased this before they renewed it. But this should be, if you buy the new version, it should be the same, starting with Amelia Bedelia. They replaced a couple of selections in their second grade literature, so they went through and updated everything. But so this should be the same in the new version. And then the next thing you can see here, they have math. So just by going through here, you can see that the original Memoria Press version has got a lot more going on. It's a more substantial program on its own, and you're going to have to add in your math program if you're doing the charter version. So they have their math, and we are then picking up on copybook/memory, and here you can see they're doing copybook from the Story Bible. So again, a Christian thing, versus the charter version, you're doing copybook cursive of Michelangelo. And then New American cursive, you've got exactly the same lesson. And then we are into literature and enrichment. And again, the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I'm pretty sure, is the prior version, like the not updated, whereas this one's updated with Johnny Appleseed. I did a video of second grade literature and enrichment where I compared side by side the Christian version or original version versus charter, and I think there's only 2 or 3 books that are different. So I think it's just a coincidence that this one's Johnny Appleseed and this is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And then we'll just look at Tuesday real quick. So the arts recitation, pretty sure is the same for both versions. And if you look at the music enrichment, it's exactly the same. There is a book that has the biography and all the information for the artist and composer of the week. This information, I believe, is also in the enrichment guide, which we're going to get into next. So That is the side-by-side comparison. And the point of doing this is just to show you that there is a distinction with difference in terms of the charter version versus their original version. So just be aware of that because there's things you're going to want to add in. All right. So the next thing we're going to look at briefly is the enrichment guide. And again, this is the charter version. And this does make a difference because the discussion questions and things are going to be from a different perspective, possibly, especially if you're getting into like Christmas picture books and things like that. And so the enrichment is, and we're just going to look at the week one. Enrichment is where I feel that the Memoria Press elementary grades really shines because they're incorporating picture books even in third grade. And that's a video I'm going to be making coming up. I actually didn't realize that they had picture books for second grade until I saw one of their, I can't forget what it's called, but they have their own YouTube channel show / podcast, classical, etc. And they were going through and sharing about why they had chosen certain books for second grade. And so that was when I saw, they actually continue having picture books, the same great quality classics and contemporary books, but more on the classic side that they have in kindergarten and first grade. So for kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade, you've got these amazing literature choices. So the way that it works is you have for example, your read-aloud book in whichever, if you're doing charter version or regular version, you read that book and here's like an overview of the book and the author and the illustrator, which is great. Knowing the difference between an author and an illustrator is actually a state standard here in California, probably in other states as well. Then you have before you read, you have extensive vocabulary, then you have just an insane amount of comprehension questions. I mean, the number of questions for the one book is just astounding. I have posted on this channel an example of a lesson where my student answers these questions, and the books are really engaging. So it's not really a matter of them losing attention or anything. This is just the way that you're building on that reading comprehension. If you were a part of a charter school, you could easily turn this into some sort of worksheet for a work sample, but it's just a really great, robust program. And they have this also in kindergarten and first grade, but there's not as many questions. And you have the answers here, so if you don't remember, I mean, you would because you'd be reading it. But one of the tips that I am working on making an article for large families who are trying to give all of their children a very robust education, but of course it's challenging because there's only one of you. And so one of the techniques that I am sharing is if you have a program like this where you've got these comprehension questions, you can look at things like putting a book on YouTube, or if you have a Yodo player or whatever way makes the most sense for your family, or a Hoopla, for example, which is a library app. Press play on the book, and then you can have your student answer these questions to you, because again, you've got the answers, or you can have them write them in their notebook. There's just a lot of ways that you could use this curriculum to work for you. And I do this with my second and fifth graders. So I'll say their name, and then they answer the question so that it's clear whose turn it is. And that works really well too. So mixing the kids together. So anyway, this is probably my favorite aspect of the Memoria Press younger years. I don't think they have this for third grade, so I'm not exactly sure how it goes with the read-aloud books. If you read it to the student, like what are you asking them afterwards? There are discussion questions for American history as a separate book, but I don't know. My one thing that I would love to have more of, and this was true in my kindergarten review, if you've seen that, I did not do a first grade one because last year was just too crazy for me, is I feel that there could be more books per week. Many weeks you only have one enrichment or literature selection, and obviously with 5 days in a week, there's just always room for more. That being said, the selections that they choose, which I'm going to move on to next, are just amazing. You've got Velveteen Rabbit, and the week that you're reading Velveteen Rabbit, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you also read Is a Camel a Mammal? and rabbits, rabbits, and more rabbits. So this is one of the things I think I've talked on in my kindergarten video, but I'm not sure, is that they really do a good job of integrating when they do have multiple titles, like reinforcing whatever the concept is for that week. I feel like is a real strength. My one complaint is that this is not consistent. There are weeks where you only have one literature book and that is it. There is no separate like science book to tie it in. But the ones that are there are just so good. And I just wish that they would continue to build on this consistently throughout this year, and then as well for third grade, if they have an enrichment guide. Because in third grade, it's not called enrichment. There's like literature and read-alouds, and then there's American history. There is no science and social studies enrichment situation. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I'll just show you some of the other ones. George Washington's Breakfast, you do during January. The Little Red Lighthouse, this is a darling old book. I think this is a book from Memoria Press. I'm not completely sure. Then you've got The Emperor's New Clothes, which is a Hans Christian Andersen version. A Pair of Red Clogs. This is a darling book. And also, when you read some of these books, it has a tie-in with the history book for that week. Let me just grab something. So sorry. I had used this today, so that's why it wasn't here. So for example, when you're reading about, one of the books is about a sea monster, and the week when you read that, you read about a captain on a ship. I think it's these three, or Dr. Kane and the Frozen Sea. So when you're reading about a ship and a pirate or something, you're also reading about that in here. And I'll get to this in a second. Then we've got Emily, and this ties into a poem written by her. We've got Paul Revere's Ride, and these are just some of them. I don't have them all here. But I did purchase these throughout the year, not all at once. So that is a strategy I recommend for saving money. This was a darling book. Then you've got St. Valentine. I'm not sure if this is in the charter version or not, but we're also doing Saint study as part of like a Waldorf thing. So, and then these two books go during the same week. Again, really great tying in of the theme. This one is about the cable cars in San Francisco. And then The Flying Hockey Stick, which is a cute little book. So the Emily book, like I was saying, ties into a poem in a child's book of poems, and then you also study a piece of art that week that involves flowers. And then the prior week, like I said, where you're reading about a serpent, you're doing this piece of art, which is a ship, and it's labeled on the back. I'm pretty sure they have 8.5 by 11s of these, but I ordered the smaller ones because they take up less space. So anyway, I like how that situation is integrated with each other, and there is a poem every week. This is a great version. If you haven't seen this before, here's all the poems in here. They're from all different poets, and they have these beautiful full color illustrations. This is in another curriculum, which is actually why I had this. And then this is the poem that you read when you're doing the week with the serpent, Cyrus and the Sea Serpent, and you're reading about the people that got stranded in their boat, and you're doing the art piece. So I really, really appreciate that thoughtfulness and the way that that works out. And then the other thing that you have is a craft. This is the Book of Crafts. We have not been diligent with this year, but I still recommend getting it. And then this is, again, that same week. So you've really got a lot of going on. It can be really darling. Again, make sure you get the Charter and Public School edition because it ties in with this version. I got the wrong version, I think, in first grade or kindergarten, and like there was an Easter craft, which there is not in the charter version, even though there is a book about Easter eggs in the charter version. So really a very robust situation. Next, we will turn to the literature. So this, if I'm not mistaken, the student reads the portion of the book. So there's several of these. I'm just showing you two of them. There's also like Beatrix Potter, Prairie School. We didn't get Amelia Bedelia, but that's one of them. And there's one for Little House on the Prairie, I think, or Little House in the Big Woods. One of the two. I don't remember which one. And the new one this year, in addition to Amelia Bedelia, is Brambley Hedge. And so there's High Hills and Sea Story. And you read like a couple of pages, it tells you, and these are darling books, by the way. I hadn't heard of these before this year, and I'm just so delighted to read this with my daughter. So you read the little story, then you go through, and I think I shared this recently on Instagram. I'll just show you one. You've got, like, for example, there are contractions, and then you also have vocabulary, and there is a dictionary. I don't know if it's been updated, but has the definitions in it, and then you've got comprehension questions. So after you're doing this reading, and here I did she told me the answers, and I wrote them down. After you do the reading, you can complete these things. And again, in the lesson plans, it will tell you which sections to do, like do vocabulary and comprehension questions. Then there are discussion questions, which is paving the way for the Socratic questions when they're in high school. And then you've got like this cute little enrichment. They've got this, I think, in every lesson now. And if you've seen, I just did a video about my Memoria press picks and like My Side of the Mountain, which is in 5th grade. They've got like how to build a fire is the enrichment. So this varies by lesson, but here they're just saying, oh, did you know that the characters' names are based on these different plants? So this is darling. I love to see this. I think that this is a factor of it being a new version, like updated version. So they're maybe changing things a little bit. My one complaint, and this is a very small complaint, well, it's kind of complicated, is I'm kind of confused by their book selections. I love these. I love Prairie School. I love the Beatrix Potter. I don't understand Amelia Bedelia. I don't feel like that book series rises to the same level. It feels a little bit twaddly. I know people love that series. My daughter loves that series. We do that for free reading. But I don't feel like it's something that should be the core of our school day. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I don't really understand the Little House selection. I feel like that is too intensive for a 7-8-year-old to be reading and then answering questions. I feel like the amount of reading it's going to require them to do is going to be tiresome for them, and then they're not going to be able to maintain attention for the discussion questions. So those are kind of my two little complaints. And the way that I handle that in my homeschool is we just don't do those. We do the other ones. And the last thing I'll say about this is that it is very intensive. And this is the second time I'm doing like Courage of Sarah Noble and Prairie School with my students. I did these with my 5th grader when he was in 2nd grade, and it's like a lot of work for them. So we do it at a slower pace, and I just want to kind of flag that as something that is like normal, that it's hard for them, especially like the amount of writing and stuff. So definitely know that you're not alone if that's hard. But I feel like it's worth it, and it really works well for teaching reading comprehension, which is something you can measure if you do assessments at the end of the year, like we do the Iowa assessments with BJU Press online. And if you need to work on reading comprehension, these work really well. And the stories are very sweet and engaging. So that is my little, tangent about that. Next, we will talk about the stories of Great Americans for Little Americans. This is by Edward Eggleston. He is a very well-known like American writer, or I don't know if he's American, but like writer of American history. The CMEC assigns one of his books in Form 1 as well. These are the perfect length. They're like 2 pages long, little stories about American history, very engaging. I really enjoy them. Obviously, he wrote this. Let's see if it says when. It's like a very old, like in 1895, this was written. So you can draw your own conclusions about what that's going to mean. It's not necessarily problematic, but just kind of keep in mind this is a very old book. The tales are very whimsical and like historical fiction type stories. Very good for a very good fit for second grade for American history. And the one complaint again I have about this book is that it's assigned inconsistently. So I don't recall if there are weeks where it's not assigned at all, but some weeks there's only one little tale assigned, and then other weeks there's 3 tales assigned. So what I would like, if I could just magically get my wish, would be to have it assigned 2 to 3 times every week consistently. And instead of having it all shoved under one of the days, it would be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, so that there would be a consistent amount of history that's taking place. Because I don't feel like the second grade enrichment books have a consistent amount of social studies. I'd say they tend more to be just literature or science. So history is something I feel like could be a little bit more beefed up. For example, you have Paul Revere's Ride. That's a great one. Maybe more books like that that tie in with the Eggleston assignments. But other than that, like I said, I feel like it's a very good length. It's the good quality language in the writing that you'd expect from Memoria Press. And again, like I said, I really like how they tie in the themes. So for example, when we did the Emily recently, there was a tale about, what's her name? Doris Day, maybe? I think about Doris Day. It's called like A Great Woman. Well, I can't find it, but anyway, or like when there's How Audubon Came to Know About Birds, that week there was a picture book about Audubon, and so then you read that. So I love that. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you can even see my point of view from reviewing, I feel like I'm just kind of going all over the place, is Introduction to Grammar School Latin. So if I was starting over again, I would not do this in second grade. I feel like it's too much for my particular student. It's very intensive. I would say, like, I started this with my 5th grader who's not the most sitting stillest type student. If you had a 5th grader who was a more sitting still type student, I think it would be a really great fit for a 5th grade, possibly 4th grade if you had a certain like diligent firstborn situation. It's not that it's too challenging per se. It's more that it just requires so much focused attention, and especially if you're doing all the other components or looping in other things, it just feels like an extra for the younger kids. So I personally would recommend like 5th grade, maybe even 6th grade, because each lesson has a lot of components. Like you're memorizing the Pledge of Allegiance in Latin from lesson 1, and that's really a lot to ask of certain students. So that is the last thing I will say. But that being said, really great curriculum. I really, really like this. And I would definitely recommend it. I've tried a lot of Latin curriculums over the years, and I feel like this one really gets the job done well. It builds on itself. It makes sense. It's logical. And I highly recommend it. So my one thing I'd say is I wouldn't do it necessarily in second grade, but it's really good. So overall, I really, really loved doing Memoria Press second grade. I will be doing Memoria Press third grade next year. I have already purchased a lot of the literature, which I will be sharing with you guys very shortly. And we will be doing that as our core curriculum for my third grader. I will be getting all of the components that come with the charter version, and I guess I will be purchasing either the individual lesson plans from the charter site or the manual from the third grade, because they do not have a charter version of third grade, which makes me super bummed. But I'm really looking forward to doing that. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you get a better sense of what the Memoria Press second grade entails. Please let me know if you have any questions below, or if there's anything you feel like I didn't show or I rushed through. I will try and come back and get to that. Otherwise, just stay tuned and thanks for watching.